But a very interesting creature in the road. The giant African land snail. It's retreated into its shell a little bit, probably because the wind was behind us and the warmth and carbon dioxide monoxide of the vehicle is blown over it. We'll wait for it to come out again. This particular snail, I'll go up to it in a minute and you'll put my hand next to it to get you an idea of the size. I didn't even touch it. All I did was put my finger close to it. I wanted it to maybe smell my finger. But obviously just the warmth of my body, the proximity to the snail retreated it into its shell. Quite wonderful creatures, really. Quite territorial. I've known snails to come out once a year, every year in the wet season. They only come out in the wet season when it's damp like this. And back home in the timber party, individuals that are probably underground for up to 9 months a year. The same individuals come around the house on the wet summer evenings, and I know this because I've taken photographs of them. Each snail has different color striations in its shell depending on what it's been feeding on, depending on the calcium deposit as its shell grows. You can see some striping there. Each snail has a different stripe. And over the years when I was younger, being able to see the same snail year in and year out. A snail, I'm guessing this size snail is probably around 10 years old. I've counted growth rings on snails up to 20 years, sometimes more. It gets very difficult because at that age the snails get quite ragged, shells get quite ragged. I'm told that they are edible, but on account of their diet, their stomach contents are not. And from what I've been told, and I hear from Rex, and it couldn't have been from a Shangaan because the Shangaan people don't do it, but I've been told that they put in a drum of ground corn, ground maize. They feed on the maize and it flushes out the stomach. Personally, I don't think snails are for eating. I've used the shells as cups to water my bonsai trees in the past. Dried shells, or rather dead snails, the shells turn white, the color fades very quickly. Very often used as homes by geckos. Often find an accumulation of eggs from dwarf geckos which happen to lay their eggs in communal places. Often found hordes of dwarf gecko eggs in abandoned or dead snail shells. And only this time of the year that we're able to see them. That one's still got a bit of growing to do. Doesn't like the light. Oh. There you can see the color of the shell nicely now. Totally unmarked. Purely for educational purposes, folks. I'm not too fond of picking up things and moving them from where they are. But we had a question from the control room about growth rings. Here's a very distinct line that can be seen. You can see the difference in the patterning, the stripes. This would have been the end of one growth season, and while it was underground, or while it was dormant, possibly pieces of the shell chipped off in places, or when it was feeding, and then the next season growth would have been, gosh, this one might not be as old as I thought. So from there to here is one season. This last one is the last season, so it's probably only about a 4-year-old snail. The snails come out of their eggs probably about that big. Am I moving it too much, Rexon? Okay. I've got to keep track of the monitor. Here is a very distinct, probably the first, in this spiral, is the first, what I would imagine maybe one of the first. So there's one, there's two, that was a short year, 3, here's 4, 5, from that one going back there's another one, 6. So maybe 6 or 7 years rather than 10. Almost like tongue, moist tongue. The biggest snail that I've had in my hand was probably twice this size. When it was fully out, the head was at my fingertip and the tail was off of my hand. Give you an idea of the size that these creatures grow into. Scientific name is Achatina, and they have spread around the world. They have been taken to different parts of the world. I'm going to put it back. Hopefully it'll pick up its own snail trail in a second, and also hopefully no more cars are coming. Always sad when something gets squashed. Okay, well, let's carry on.